Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision. For tonight, we're going to be talking about a subject that I've always held dear to me, and that is the topic of inherent accuracy and how much of a scam it really is. It's a marketing term. The reality is, inherent accuracy doesn't exist. It's referred to in a general sense when it's talking about things like accuracy or precision. Precision being more how tight your groups are, as opposed to accuracy talking about where you're placing your shots on like a piece of paper. But why is this term technically a scam or a myth? Well, the reality is there's no such thing as inherent, because these are inanimate objects. The reality is a better term would be engineered accuracy. Having worked on several cartridges myself, currently working on one, the tolerances have to be engineered or put into place. Let me turn this a little bit. And so when they're talking about these types of accuracies and differences, what they're really talking about is the difference between modern tolerances and older tolerances. Here's two perfect examples of slightly older tolerances. That is the 308 Winchester. Okay, very common, still used today. Great all-around medium game cartridge. Can even work well on big game if you have the right load. Here's another good example of an older cartridge. This is a 270 Winchester. This is currently what I use. This is what I choose to use. This is a hand load of mine. Now, I've seen modern cartridges such as 6.5 PRC, 6.5 Creedmoor, name it, with all these modern tolerances be put in rifles that couldn't hit the broadside of a beef at 10 feet. And I know that's an exaggeration, but the point is very, very simple. It has less to do with your chamber tolerances and more to do with what your barrel does with it after it leaves the case. The case in the end is just that. It's just a case. It's just a powder and bullet holder. Now, there are certain ways to get better efficiency with your case. There are certain ways to get slightly tighter tolerances. Yeah, and it does make a difference. And so I'm not denying that. I know that for a fact because I've worked in doing it. And I am working in doing it. That's why I'm trying to introduce these two new 27 caliber cartridges. But the reality is, when you break the term down, it's really just a marketing ploy. And you'll hear ones in the industry, and one of the ones that mostly talks about it is a guy by the name of Joseph Von Benedict. And I even talked about it, and he's like, yeah, whatever, it is actually inherently accurate. I'm like, no, because I know guys who hand load with older cartridges, including ones like the 257 Roberts, 300 Savage, 270, 30-06, 308, and they're custom barrels on them. And yes, they do make custom barrels. These guys are just taking basically their old Winchester Model 70s and Remington 700s, and they're rebarreling them, getting the actions blueprinted, which just means they're just cleaning up the mating surfaces so that way the barrel seats against the action evenly. And these guys are shooting groups that are 1/4 inch, maybe just a little bit over, and they're shooting inside the same expectations as some of these newer cartridges. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't ways to improve the cases, but I don't really care for that term because it really is a marketing ploy. It's a myth. Because if you can take an old toleranced cartridge and with the right machining to your action and your barrel, have it keep neck and neck with the new stuff, then it's not really the cartridge, is it? It's not really inherently accurate. So what it means is, what I'm trying to tell you is, don't get scammed. Don't buy into the hype. Just because they have a large channel or just because they have a show doesn't mean anything. Truth is truth, and marketing ploy, no matter the size of the channel or how many shows they are or how long they've been a successful gun writer. And I'm not saying that that the people who are doing these things or promoting these ideas are bad people. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that. But they're paid to say certain things, and therefore they say those certain things. I don't get paid to do those things, and I'm not going to get paid to do those things, and there's nothing they're going to do that's going to change that. So I'm going to speak from just experience. There's nothing involved, nothing specific when it comes to engineering inanimate objects that has to do with inherent. The only things that are going to be like inherent are what you look like in comparison to your dad or your grandfather or your mom. Genetics are inherent. Machinery is not. It's engineered. It is specifically put together in a way to work and function in a certain way. Okay? So that's the thing about it. There has to be work and effort. It's not inherent. It's not just genetically passed down. Words have definitions. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't cartridges in barrels that are more accurate than others. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the actual term itself, in the actual phrase, inherent accuracy, don't fall for it. It doesn't exist. If you have a good quality rifle that's chambered in these older cartridges like 308, 270, 30-06, 7 Rem mag, 300 Win mag, they will shoot just as well as any of the new stuff. Your 6.5 Creedmoor, your 6.5 PRC, your 7 PRC, your 300 PRC. A 300 Win mag taken and given the right throating, so if you extend the throat a little bit so you can keep your bullet out of your powder reservoir, and then given the right twist rate, will do everything a 300 PRC will do. That's not an exaggeration. You will not see a difference that's going to matter. The difference is this is where we're going to get into the weeds a little bit. And it's not even that much into the weeds. This is just hard truth. The advantage to something like a 300 PRC compared to a 300 Win mag is the factory offering. That's where you're going to get into a difference. Because of the way the 300 PRC is engineered, having the extended throat, having a 1-in-8 twist as opposed to a 1-in-10 twist. If you're not inclined to go out and spend, $2,000 or $3,000 on a custom, but you want to be able to shoot that type of performance and go a little bit longer range than your typical 300 Win mag, it does make sense that you would buy something like a 300 PRC, because you can go out and buy like a CVA Cascade, you can buy a Bergara or a Savage, or name it. There's a whole slew of rifles that you can buy that are going to be much more affordable, that are going to come with that 1-in-8 twist, that extended throat so the bullet's out of there, and the slightly heavier, higher BC bullets. So if you're looking for a factory offering that already offers those as opposed to going to a custom, then sure, then it makes complete sense. Same thing when it comes to something like a 6.5 PRC versus a 264 Winchester Magnum, because you're not going to find a 1-in-8 twist in a 264 Win mag as a factory offering. It doesn't exist. You're not going to find the tolerances in terms of how the bullet seats inside the chamber. That's also totally different, right? So they fit different categories. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that they're different. And so I'm not saying that, there's anything wrong with going with the newer stuff. What I am saying, though, is it's okay to go with that if you're trying to achieve a certain goal. Just don't get suckered into saying, oh, this one's way more accurate because of X, Y, and Z. That doesn't really mean anything, because all it takes is one decent gunsmith to breathe some fresh life into the older cartridges, and they're going to shoot just as good as what you got going on. Now, yeah, it's going to take a little bit more work. That's true. But right now, with my factory Bergara, a B14 Ridge, I consider it a budget-friendly rifle because it's under $1,000. You can buy that rifle, and with how my load is, this is, again, I'll hold this up again for those who weren't paying, that right there. This doesn't seat to 3.34. For some reason, my specific rifle has a slightly longer throat. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. So once I figured that out and did some of my hand loads for it, this specific load, a 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range, okay? Typically, old school, a 150 grain bullet out of a 270 is shooting the mid 2800s. Typically between, somewhere around 2800. Some do it a little lower than that, like high 2700s. And some of the newer factory offerings will do this at like 2900. With 56 grains of Vitavori N160 out of my rifle with this setup, I'm getting 3,014 feet per second, and my groups are consistently right between 0.6 and 0.7 inches. Now, I do 3-shot groups because I'm not really concerned about the 5th. All right? I'm concerned about the first shot doing the job every single time. That's what I'm after. So I'm getting performance out of a $900 rifle that is performing pretty darn close to something like a 280 Ackley. Something like a 7 PRC, 7 Rem Mag. But I'm, in terms of overall precision and I'm doing it with an old tolerance cartridge. And I don't even consider myself that good of a hand loader. I'm still learning. So imagine you have somebody who has 30 to 40 years and is a gunsmith that knows what they're doing. I'd love to see what they can do, right? So to dispel the myth that inherent accuracy is a thing, it is absolutely not a thing. It's definitely that certain cartridges have tighter tolerances than others. That's true. And then when they're loaded properly, they will shoot a little bit better. But it's not inherent. It's engineered. Engineered accuracy. That's the difference. I appreciate the support. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we'll talk to you again.